Thunderbolt had come into its own as a high-altitude escort fighter. Yet just as it reached its zenith, it was eclipsed by the longer-legged P-51 Mustang. As more P-51 Mustangs flooded into England, the Thunderbolts rapidly disappeared from the 8th Air Force's inventory until only the 56th Fighter Group continued to fly them. The 56th refused to change over. They loved their 47s, especially after new wide-bladed propellers arrived that greatly enhanced the plane's climb rate and acceleration. Also, by this point, Republic started to produce a lightweight, more powerful version of the P-47 that only the 56th Fighter Group used in combat. Designated the P-47M, it was the ultimate Thunderbolt.
There's about 150 of them made, and they all came to the 56th Fighter Group, except maybe a couple generals got. Actually, it was the best propeller plane that was actually in the war. And I think it was clocked at the fast, I think about 470 or 480. I think the 351 is about 460. It was supposed to be and we were the fastest, actually it was the fastest plane that they had.
The P-47M also came with a dramatically increased range thanks to the advent of larger capacity external fuel tanks. This, the ultimate version of the Thunderbolt in Europe, was finally able to stay with the bombers all the way to Berlin and back.
You just cruise back and forth. If you're top cover, you just kind of weave back and forth. Or if you were maybe at the target, you'd go over the target and you just kind of weave back and forth over the target until all the bombers left, and then you'd go back. Usually you'd either have duty of taking them in, you'd pick them up at a certain point, you'd take them to a certain point, then another group would relieve you. And then, because we couldn't stay up there that long, see, the bombers fly, 8, 9, 10-hour mission, and depending how far it is. And then you'd go home, and they would take them so far, and then somebody else would pick them up and bring them home.
Even in the war's waning months, the P-47 proved to be a formidable air-to-air adversary and continued to rack up an impressive toll against the Luftwaffe's best and latest fighters.
My squadron flew one mission where I think they shot down 11 long-nosed F-190s. Eight P-47s shot down 11 long-nosed 190s, didn't lose anybody. But I was on the Riviera on R&R on that mission. So.
By war's end, the 56th Fighter Group had become the top-scoring 8th Air Force unit in air-to-air victories. While the group lost 128 P-47s in combat, its pilots shot down 674 German planes and destroyed another 300 on the ground. With almost 1,000 planes to its credit, the Wolfpack had more than proven that when used right, the P-47 could be a terror to all its foes. Throughout 1944, as its long-range escort role diminished, the 9th Air Force adopted the P-47 for a new role, ground attack. Never designed for low-altitude work, pilots weren't sure how the Thunderbolt would function down on the treetops, shooting up German targets on the ground. Though it didn't perform as well on the deck as it did at 25,000 feet, the P-47 soon more than proved its worth in its new role. In fact, by war's end, it had compiled a record so remarkable that it easily became the best American fighter bomber of the war.
Among its many contributions was as the premier American ground support machine. This was the close air support fighter par excellence in the Normandy campaign. In fact, Saving Private Ryan, I thought was an excellent movie, but at the end where the tank busters arrive and save the day, they're P-51 Mustangs. It would have been, I think, more accurate and more representative of what actually happened to have those be P-47 Thunderbolts doing the ground support mission. because the P-47 was a true ground support star, whereas the P-51, yes, it did those missions, but that wasn't its major contribution.
On the deck, the 47's ruggedness was its greatest asset. Many a Thunderbolt pilot survived a holocaust of flak and machine gun fire thanks to the sheer toughness of his plane's hide.
I was the number 4 pilot, being the youngest, or the newest, I should say, and tooling along, and suddenly the field out in front just lit up like a Christmas tree. I took something in the right wing that blew off every shell I had out there. I had not fired a round at that time, but it had to have been of incendiary nature because there wasn't any ammunition left when it was all over. It blew the gun tray lid on the 4 guns out in the right wing up about that high. And, of course, holes all over the thing. Headed for home, decided the damn thing was flying and I would stay with it. Let down then, probably about 20, 30 miles from home, put the wheels down way out. Everything worked fine, except that the stall speed was all screwed up. Landed, I don't know whether I burned the brakes out or not, I really didn't care. They class 2060 airplane anyway. We didn't have repairs for them, and with that wing the way it was, I guess I was forever thankful that the darn gear went down. But 1,800 rounds, and you could see visible flame in there from whatever hit it, set it off or set the ammunition off, and that was, be real proud, even though he didn't like the 47, but having come from 38s, but it absorbed tremendous damage. As far as I was concerned, it was a testimony to the manufacturing talent of the Republic.
The Thunderbolt's powerful engine could drag aloft a dizzying array of bombs and rockets, making it amazingly versatile in the fighter-bomber role.
We had 2 500-pound bombs, and then normally we carried a fragmentation bomb on the belly, 260-pound frag bomb, which was an anti-personnel bomb.
Carried a wide variety of bombs and what have you. We carried 2 500-pound bombs. We carried napalm. We carried 1,000-pound straight GPs. We carried 1,000-pound. They were in a shell similar to a 50-gallon drum, just pure dynamite. They were concussion instruments because some of the areas that we were dive bombing in and against troops were steep enough that the concussion, the blast, would kill people. It just depended on what the particular ground support mission requested.
As the P-47's role as an escort fighter was eclipsed by the P-51, so grew its role as a ground attack weapon. 9th Air Force P-47s played a tremendously important role from D-Day through the end of the war, supporting the ground troops as they pushed forward into the Reich.
We were almost entirely there to support troops on the ground. In my case, we were in what we call 29th TAC. The 9th Air Force is organized into 3 tactical air forces, 9th, 19th, and 29th. And 9th was on the south end, 19th was in the middle, and 29th was on the north end of the U.S. forces as we were going across France and Germany. And so we supported the troops that were in 9th Army.
From their aerial perches, Thunderbolt pilots searched out any targets of opportunity.
We would go out and they'd say armed reconnaissance. And what that meant essentially was if you see anything moving, go shoot, go hit it. Because by that time in the war, the Germans, there were no civilian vehicles moving in Germany. They were all related to the military in some way. Even the horse-drawn and all that were usually carrying ammunition or food or something for the troops. And anything from a single staff car to a convoy of trucks would be a target if it was moving and we were there.
Sometimes, while strafing one target, another presented itself.
I can recall a mission where we were strafing, there were about 4 or 5 large trucks. They weren't semis, they were big vans on a truck.